G'day and welcome to another video with Better Pics. Hope this finds everyone well. Just wanted to create a complement video to my last video that I released around the crop tool with Adobe Camera Raw and go through similar features within Lightroom. Primarily the crop tool within Lightroom is exactly the same, but there are a few little differences, so I just thought I'd go through them for the sake of helping people out who predominantly use Lightroom as opposed to Adobe Camera Raw. So this is the latest version of Lightroom, version 9.3, and as you can see I've got an image open at the moment. It's a full resolution image, and I'm in the develop module. So just over on the right hand side here you can see the crop overlay option there. Now you can see that the shortcut is actually different to Adobe Camera Raw as well. In Lightroom it is R, whereas within Adobe Camera Raw it is C. So clicking on the crop tool or hitting R, you can see immediately we have those default overlay of thirds, so 3x3 squares, or rectangles I should say, just to help give you a little bit of reference of breaking up the image within the rule of thirds. Now, as with any rule, it's not a hard and fast. Creatively you can take any approach that you like, but it's certainly a useful tool just to get a starting point to see where the elements are laid out within the image and how it's been framed during capture. So you can see that with that crop tool, when I click on it, it comes up with the crop and straighten. And you can see that it's got an option there for aspect. So if I just click on that little drop down box, it's got the original, custom as shot, and we've got a bunch of different ratios there, 1:1, 4:5, which is also the same as 8:10, 8.5:11, 5:7, 2:3, or 4:6. And then a few resolution options there as well, so 4:3, 16:9, 1920 by 1080, which is obviously full HD resolution. You can enter your own custom if you want to, so you can enter whatever aspect ratio you like, and yeah, then a couple more down the bottom there as well. Now if I select, for example, a let's go 5:7, which is slightly different to the original ratio of the image and the main ratio of most images, which is always 2:3. You can see if I click and drag, it constrains that ratio. So as I click and drag out, I can click and drag all four corners, but it always maintains that ratio of the crop tool. Now, hovering outside of the crop tool, you can see that the cursor changes a little bit. It's kind of like a double-ended arrow, and it's slightly curved, and that means that I can actually rotate the image. Now I can do this for a creative crop, or if I'm trying to straighten the image as well, so if I've got a crooked horizon. Some options there to straighten your image if you're needing to. Now if I just hover over and right click and then hit reset crop, we go back to our original image. Now you can see just below those options that you have the option to change the angle, exactly the same in Adobe Camera Raw. There's also an auto button there, which may or may not work. It didn't work too well then relative to the horizon. I'm just going to reset that crop, and I'm going to hit auto again to see if it does anything. Yep, it's a bit of interesting. It actually looks like it's taking a vertical line off those rocks, so trying to make those rocks as vertical as possible. Again, I'm going to just right click and reset crop, but that option of the angle tool there just means that you can rotate the image, and you can see the resulting crop that you're left with. Alright, I'm just going to reset crop as well. Now there's also the angle option there as well. If we click on that, you can see the cursor once again changes, and we can click and drag a line to be parallel with the horizon, and this allows us to get the horizon or any line within the image as straight as is needed. Now you can see it's only a slight crop there. My horizon was pretty straight but not perfect, but you can see that it has obviously manipulated and cropped that image to straighten that horizon based on that angle line that I drew across it. Now, exactly the same in Adobe Camera Raw, where if we right click, we're presented with some more options. You can see that if I do that in Lightroom, there's some options up the top there, which we've already looked at the top one. So right click and reset crop just means that we start back at the beginning. Crop as shot means that it'll be an aspect ratio and a crop as the full size of the image. Constrain aspect ratio means that it will hold on to that aspect ratio. You can see if I move the mouse around in a slightly different position, it's not actually changing the ratio of the image. Now, if I go back into that and uncheck that, it means that I can crop to any shape that I like. As you can see, I can crop into a panorama or more of a square or an extremely thin vertical image, whatever you would like to do creatively. So you can see that within Lightroom, we still have that full flexibility to unconstrain the aspect ratio so that we're not limited to whichever shape we want, or we're able to achieve through crop any shape that we want. So if, say for example, I then just clear that. If I created a panorama, actually, we just need to uncheck that, and just like so. So I'm not looking at a specific aspect ratio, I'm just creating a panorama based on eyeballing it. If I then click on Constrain Aspect Ratio, it then means that that crop that I've created freehand is locked into that aspect ratio. Now, where that's really handy is if you're cropping a slightly different aspect ratio on multiple images, you can then constrain that aspect ratio that you've created freehand and apply that to other images in the list of images that you may be working on. Obviously, you can see I'm only working on one image at the moment, but that option is there if you would like to. So unconstrain, create the shape that you want, and then constrain, and it will lock in that aspect ratio to be used on other images. So quite a flexible tool there and a great feature. All right, we're just going to reset crop again. Excellent. All right, so what we're going to do now is just see what it means to actually apply that crop to the image. So I've just cropped in on this image a little bit. I'm just going to make a slight adjustment there. There we go. Now, the way that you apply that crop is simply unclick the crop tool. So if you click on that tool again, it takes you out of the crop tool and applies that crop to the image. Now, with any RAW workflow, it is non-destructive. If I click on the crop tool again, you can see that that original size of the image is now there again, and I can also obviously go back in and adjust that crop if I come back to the image and feel like I need to change it a little bit. So certainly some great features in there. Now, while you can also reset that crop, as I've shown a few times, by right click and reset crop, you can also reset crop just with this little reset button there as well. So a couple of ways that you're able to do that. Look, for me, with the crop tool, I generally try to frame my images the way that I want to have them presented in camera. But if you're looking at a different shaped image or a panorama or square or anything like that, which your camera is not able to capture, then it certainly gives you flexibility to look at reframing your image and changing the shape of the image in post. And of course, there are times where I reframe the image but keep the same aspect ratio. If in post, where I have time to reflect on the image, I have time to think about how I would like to present it, or the way that the image is best presented for maximum results and impact. So of course, the crop tool is there, as with many other tools, to use to sort of realize, I guess, your creative vision of where you want to take your image. And it's a fantastic and quick and easy tool to use, and I would definitely recommend it. Thanks very much for stopping by. Hope this tutorial has been helpful. As always, any questions are welcome in the comments below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you again in the future, and take care.